Man, what an adventure. You know, I set out, my expectations were just to go out for a great adventure. And everybody sort of fit in and play their own role and just made this trip really awesome. So I think it was probably one of the most challenging trips I've had in a while. But definitely at the end of it, I was super stoked because the amount of time we got to just hang out with each other and spend in the field, just looking for bears and envisioning bears and talking about bears, and just this trip really went full circle from really 5 people who had never hunted black bears in the coastal range to go out there with not a lot of prior experience, with minimal scouting, and come together as a team, which is just really, really awesome.
Hey guys, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Emily.
And this is The Way We Hunt. So this is the rundown of our 2021 spring bear hunt in Oregon, otherwise known as the 2021 Bear Boondoggle with Harvesting Nature, with Justin and Ben and Colin.
So we prepared for everything, I think.
Everything.
Yeah, many months in advance. And we start our journey from Oklahoma to Oregon, and we've decided we're going to drive because we always take way too much stuff to fly with both of us. So we drive out there and we decide that we're probably going to stop halfway through and spend the night and then get there the next day. Well, Ryan makes a suggestion when we get to Eugene to find a hotel or a bed and breakfast. So I start Googling places, bed and breakfast around Eugene, and actually find one in Veneta, which is actually very close to where Ben had sent us a access point for where we're going to be hunting. And I found a place called the Yurtle. So I tell Ryan about it, show him some photos. He's skeptical. He is skeptical, and I go ahead and book it. We get there, and it's actually pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, the next day, we get up, kind of mess around, eat a fantastic breakfast, and we drive to the spot that Ben had sent us.
Yeah, so it's kind of a mixture of private land and then public BLM land. And so you had to be really careful on where you parked and where you camped. You could park certain spots, you could camp certain spots, you could walk in other certain spots. People have been out west, kind of know what we're getting at. This was our first time, so we really just didn't know. So he had sent us a couple pins of places that he thought would be good areas, and until you really lay eyes on them, you can't know whether they're good or not. So keep in mind, we were the first ones there. So we were looking for a spot for 3 vehicles, plus 4 or 5 guys and a girl, people, tents, all that kind of stuff, plus an access point. So we were trying to round all that up into one big base camp area, and we hunted.
So we went back to the original spot that I had found.
Yeah, so that's where we camped. And it actually ended up being the mothership of camp spots because it was fantastic. Set up camp, and then later that evening, Ben and Colin and Justin showed up.
We decided that we were going to get up early the next day and hike in about 3.5 miles to the spot that we were going to hunt.
Ben said.
Yes. 3.5 miles.
This is the first Benism of the trip.
I'm not sure we understood the distance we'd be traveling, so we invented a new Benism while we were out there, and that was, everything's about 1.5 miles by the words of Ben, and in all actuality, he just kind of starts tracking miles whenever he gets tired, which is usually well into the trail.
I pack for a 3.5 mile trip, so my pack is fairly heavy. I'm not gonna hunt, so I don't even bring a gun that day because we had decided that Ryan was gonna shoot first, and Ben, Colin, and Justin had decided that Justin was gonna shoot first. They all carried guns. I was just kind of the pack mule for the first day. 3.5 miles in, not a straight line. Onyx and base maps roads were good for Onyx and base maps, but they were still not road.
So some of these trails on Onyx and base map, they're on there, but you'll see they're not really here as much. This is a road, a marked road. Yep. Totally get a car through here.
So there might have been a road there
At one point.
sometime, but now it is now overgrown with 6-foot trees and underbrush that is no longer a road. So we navigated those obstacles 7.5 miles later, Ben's like, hey, this is it. But going up the mountain was pretty cool. We saw
Herd of elk.
a herd of elk. We bumped some elk. Ran into what we affectionately called Owl Road because it was a barred owl. It's right in the middle of the road on a tree, kind of keeping sentry over the area. So we bumped into him multiple times. Lots of salamanders, lots of just cool flora and fauna and mushrooms that we stopped and tried to pick.
Then I think the only lookalike is angel wings, and they only grow in the fall out here.
Had a bat crash into camp the night before. So it was all in all a really, really cool trip. It was a long trip,
Right.
but it was a cool trip up the mountain. Once we got up there, Ben, Colin, and Justin decided to break off to the west, basically. Me and Emily decided to break off to the east. We were essentially on a giant Y up in the top of the mountain. And so they went one way, and we went the other.
Ben and Colin and I went more towards the southeast. So we traveled along the gravel roads and stuff and glass, climbed up an elevation. We probably pushed an additional like 2.5 miles back. And so we set up on the hillside. It started to rain.
Got our little hidey hole up here on the side of the hill, out of the rain.
So we put up this tarp, saved our lives several times from the rain, from the sun. I think we used it every day, which was great. And we sat there and we just glassed.
All right, here we are in our glassing point. Got Ben here. Colin, glassing, glass master, and then me. Super close. There we go. We're hoping to watch these ridge lines here and down there, and hopefully get a bear to come. It's raining, as you can hear and see, but hopefully it won't stop the bears. Hopefully the rain goes away and then the bears come out to play.
You know, unfortunately, we didn't see any bear sign or any bear at all. It seemed like the perfect spot you would imagine a bear to be. You know, gentle slopes, steep slopes, nice thick bottom, water, all that jazz, but no bear to be found.
Which we had seen some bear sign down kind of in the bottom area, and the more elevation we got where we were originally, we weren't seeing any bear sign at all.
No bear sign up here, which is a little odd, but bear sign down below. It's not here.
For spring season, for black bear, they say, hey, watch for those eastern-facing slopes. That's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard that ever since we went to Canada 2 or 3 years ago and hunted bears. So we tried to find an eastern-facing slope that was open, that was greening up from the spring, that was a clear cut. So once you establish all those protocols and you check those boxes, we found one.
I think we found our spot. Big east-facing clear cut. It's about 10:30. So Em is setting up our spot. I think we're gonna watch this big clear cut and then kind of a burnout clear cut behind us here.
And it was beautiful. It had a good shady hillside that we could back up into the trees and get out of the weather because it did rain on us a little bit, that we could overlook this entire face and glass it. And we did. Got back to camp, cooked some really, really good duck bites that Colin had prepared. Justin had given Colin a recipe a while back for some duck bites. We grilled some duck bites over an open fire. Kind of had made a plan for the next day to take it easy.
Yeah, I think everybody was like, yeah, we're not doing 15 miles every day. We need to take it a little easy tomorrow.
So then the second day, we got back out, and Ryan and Emily decided to go sit a little closer in to where we'd hiked, because the second day we'd hiked a round trip of like something really ridiculous, like 10-15 miles. It was a long run, and then so we all kind of wanted to take the second day as a recovery day and kind of recoup and figure out where our what our plans were going to be. So Colin and Ben and I went and checked out some other spaces around that he'd been scouting, and so we hopped in the truck and drove around to check a space that was pretty gnarly. Ben had put a trail camera there and was like, oh yeah, it's just a mile and a half up the mountain. So up the mountain we went, and we end up on top of this mountain, essentially where the only thing on Ben's trail cam was Ben setting up the trail cam. So nothing had happened in the past few weeks that he had been there. So we turned around, or well, we had a bit of lunch, then we turned around and headed back down, and scoped out a couple other spots as we were out moving around. You know, unfortunately, we just kind of came back to camp. Ryan and Emily, we learned, had similar experience, so they weren't able to get onto any bears either on the second day. So it was a little unfortunate. We got to see a great bunch of the country, got to go out to the coast of Oregon. Like where we were hunting all in all was only about 30 minutes away from the coast, so when we were kind of mobile that second day, we were able to get over to the coast and saw this like picturesque Oregon coastal town. And that kind of wrapped up our second day.
All right, day 3. We're setting out in a different direction than normal. Colin's gonna do some turkey hunting, and then I don't know if Ben and I are gonna wander, if we're all gonna stay together. We haven't quite figured it out yet. We're moving to some new territory.
On the third day, Ben, Justin, and I, we decided to go up where Ryan and Emily had gone the day before, but then we walked past the wood line. It's like a little goat trail you can go on, and we went past the wood line, up into some clear cuts and some old logging roads, and it looked pretty promising. We had a good feeling about it. I was actually turkey hunting that day, or at least I had my turkey gear with me and my shotgun.
Hey, so notice you got your shotgun there, Colin?
I do. I'll be looking for a turkey today, Rio Grandes. We've seen some tracks and a lot of turkey sign around. And Ben here heard a gobble in this ridge last week, so they're definitely around. We're just gonna try and find them.
All right, so it's our last evening sit in this location. I think tomorrow we're moving to another part of the state, but still pretty hopeful for some bears here. How was your turkey hunting, Colin?
Oh, it's great. But no turkeys. Couldn't hear anything. No locator calls. Weren't pulling anything in. Yeah, it was too bad. We didn't see any bears or turkeys that day.
We're running on day 3 and not even seen a bear. And the 5 of us have hunted a lot of places. Ain't seeing nothing, so I'm just gonna go back to the spot Ryan and I set it yesterday because I know how to get there, feel comfortable there. There's water. It's about 3.5 miles in. And probably won't die. I mean, there's a really good possibility that I'll live. So that's where I'm going. It's gonna take me a minute because this is the first day that I've packed the gun since Ryan's been hunting. I decided not to pack the 300 because what's the point? But today it's mine. So.
Yeah, and so I had kind of given up my day to hunt and went to town just to get some fresh intel. Took the truck and I headed southwest, kind of towards the coast. About an hour and a half later, I was 1,300 or 1,400 feet higher than we were before, and a mix of private and public land in a logging area. And I had a lot of time, so I packed up a pack, took off walking, walked in about 2 miles, looked around and said, this is where we need to be, I think.
I'm about 2 hours from everybody else by myself. I acquired an Onyx pin from a very cool guy. He's a kind of a local guide here. He said, hey, I'm not gonna give you my honey hole, but this will get you pointed in the right direction. And I'm in some big country. See behind me, I've got a lot of glassing to do. Yep. I didn't plan on hunting today. I mean, I'm wearing short sleeves and a vest. So this could be interesting. The thing is, this place is vertical. It's like New Zealand. If I kill one down here, it's gonna be a thing to get it back out.